Jordan. It is wonderful to be here with you today.
So great to be here with you. It's so exciting.
So let's start. You made history as the youngest Black playwright in Broadway history, which is incredible. How did that make you feel?
Insane, insane. Like, it's something you don't even really think about, because you're too busy just doing the work. But to think about the fact that, the person before me was Lorraine Hansberry, wrote A Raisin in the Sun in 1958, So to think that I'm like following in that footsteps, in that lineage just excites me. And also, to me is the beginning of the future. It's the beginning of a new kind of storytelling and a new kind of theater, a new kind of Broadway,
I want to hear about your background. How did you get into theater, Broadway, and entertainment?
It all started when I was really young, like about 6 years old. I would always put on these plays in my living room, and I would cut up my mom's weave and my dad's work uniform and make costumes. I really just love telling stories and love becoming other characters. And so that started with me doing plays in the living room, to going to the backyard, to growing from the backyard to doing them in the church. And so that just grew. And then when I moved to New York, I would hand out flyers in Times Square and on the subway, trying to pass out and let people know that my shows were happening. And that just grew and grew. And then I did Aint No Mo at the Public Theater, and then it went from the Public Theater to Broadway.
How did you convince producers to take a chance on you and take a chance on Aint No Mo and get it to Broadway?
Yeah, what's crazy is I really had to do a lot of the work myself first.
Really?
Yeah, because it was one of those pieces where it just wasn't like anything else. When people want you to compare something to something, it's I don't really know what it's comparative to. But really I had to believe in myself and believe in my work before I trusted other people to believe in it for me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that started with putting on readings, with the community, finding different organizations that would let me just set up music stands and call friends and read a play, right? And I think once I started doing that, that's when Jack Phillips Moore from the Public Theater ended up seeing a reading of it that was done at New York Theater Workshop with Stevie Walker Webb, and it just kind of grew from there.
And how were you able to break into the Hollywood scene, convince BET to take a chance on you? What was that process like for you?
Oh, that was a journey. So the Miss Pat show, I was 23 when I wrote it. And I actually wrote it in my apartment. I used to live in this horrible New York apartment. I didn't have a closet. I slept on a futon. I always said I had 5 roommates and 2 rats, because it was just the best. I wrote that pilot. Lee Daniels brought me to Fox, and Miss Pat brought me to Fox, and they were like, absolutely not. We're not giving a kid in college a television show. I don't care how good his plays are. They were like, we're not doing that, right? So Lee's like, well, we're gonna keep trying. And Miss Pat calls me, and she said, I want you to do something for me. I want you to write the first episode. And I was like, what? She was like, write the first episode and take your name off of it. And I was like, what do you mean take my name off of it?
Wow.
So I took my name off of it. I wrote the episode, trusting. And she sent it in to Fox, her and Lee Daniels, and Fox said, who wrote this? And they said it was the kid you didn't want to hire.
What a good strategy.
Yeah, and that's how I ended up being able to have my own show. Yeah.
That's really cool. And finally, Jordan, I'm sure you've got a lot of rejection in your career, being in theater, being in Hollywood. Yeah. Tell me about that experience for you, and any advice you have for others who may be pitching or going through similar rejections in their fields.
Yeah, don't let nobody talk you out of what you know to be true, right? Because if they can't give you the space, you can find the space. If you gotta do it in the living room, if you gotta do it in the backyard, if you gotta do it at the rec center, do it. There's always some form of you're not good enough. There's always some form of we don't get it. We don't understand it. That's too much. That's too, what I'm grateful for is because I've received so many no's, at some point, Spirit just knocks something into my head. It's like, do you know who you are? Do you know what you've done when people told you couldn't do it? When people said it was impossible? And I think that's what really, pushed me forward, is to never, ever, ever take no for an answer when there's a yes in the bottom of your gut.